Banania. Nerds in Paradise. Nothing wakes you up in the morning like a cunningly coded SMS message, which took Nigel Nickleby from drowsy to wide awake in less than 5 seconds. The decoded message from Paternoster, aka Nigel's father, read, "Big Bird, surprise landing, St. Biggles, 2003, 13 hours 15. Basically meaning Nigel's mother was travelling via the almost international airport on the nearby island of St. Biggles to Banania to surprise him. This also meant to inspect his current situation in order to determine its suitability for her one and only son, something Nigel and those close to him met with a sense of impending doom. The concern of how to welcome Nigel's mum was the only item on the company agenda for that morning's hastily convened emergency meeting. A company helicopter or even light aircraft would be deemed suitable, but in the real world, these playthings only became real in the imagination of Connor O'Connor, the company's marketing director. It was Kees van Dorp, the company's bookkeeper, who came up with a solution. Always on the lookout for ways to trim bits off the budget, he reminded the others that they did indeed have alternative inter-island transportation, which wouldn't cost them the ferry fare to St. Biggles and back. You see, some weeks earlier, while clearing a particularly stubborn patch of shrubbery behind the company workshop, they'd unearthed an ancient lifeboat. With the help and good advice of Captain Jack Ladd, worthy commander of Banania's venerated coast guard, and with much scraping, scrubbing, mending and painting, they made the boat comparatively seaworthy. So long as the sea was flat, calm and not too wide, that was. Larry Lemming, the company electronics engineer and part-time tinkerer, had dutifully delved into the dark art of cleaning up the one-time London taxi engine and getting it running in a cloud of choking black smoke. When all was deemed seaworthy and with appropriate ceremony, the boat was christened Floating Digit. Nobody but the engineers knew what that meant, but the floating bit seemed positive, at least. Now all they needed was a calm sea and a fearless crew. Nobody, of course, volunteered, so a crew had to be press-ganged. Nigel, of course, would have to be captain, being a captain of industry, on Banania at least. So Larry Lemming was chosen due to his skill with electronics in case the wiring went wrong. And Frits van Dam, the company coder, was given the position of first mate, mainly because everyone else simply refused to take on such a hazardous voyage. Larry and Fritz only agreed to crew the boat because they were promised stripy sailor suits and cool hats, which made the imminent dangers almost worth it. 2 days before Mrs. Nickleby's arrival, the boat had an official inspection from Bernie Nelson, junior member of the Bananian Coast Guard Service. Bernie was young, enthusiastic, pathologically honest, and immaculately uniformed. He was also desperate to catch smugglers and pirates, of which he was convinced the sea was teeming. Well, after inspecting the resurrected lifeboat and being told of their forthcoming voyage to St. Biggles, Bernie Nelson became concerned. Whew, all the way to Biggles in this boat? You do realise that this ocean is teeming with pirates and nefarious ne'er-do-wells. Pernicious pirates would have no hesitation in attacking a bark of this ilk. What's a bark? And what's an ilk? Said the crew members. While thanking Bernie for his eloquent warnings, the team quickly scum-huddled to find a solution to the potential problem. It would never do for Nigel's mum to catch even a whiff of mild discomfort, let alone real danger. Well, the meeting became interestingly agitated as its members came up with the most imaginative defence mechanisms. Attack drones and converting the lifeboat into a submarine were tabled, then quickly untabled. Creating a Klingon cloaking device was seriously considered, but reluctantly abandoned due to the amount of smoke the boat produced. Seeing clear evidence of something that wasn't on their radar screen was bound to arise piratical curiosity. "What we need is an armed escort," pronounced Larry. "Like, a Navy frigate or something. They'd never dare get anywhere near that, would they, eh?" Wait a minute, that's it, declared Nigel in a flash of inspiration. "We won't make a cloaking device, but the opposite." "All right, yeah, right. A Klingon warbird image transmitter." "Cool." "No, not a Klingon warbird. A British destroyer AIS. Oh, right. Oh, an identify signal, right. So they think we're a destroyer. Ha! Well, we can make one of them. Right, Fitz, right? We can make one of them. It's just we need just to copy the code, right, don't we?" And off they both went, excited to spend half the night working on the digital equivalent of cowboys and Indians. So early on an inevitably sunny morning, Captain Nigel Nickleby, master and commander of the good ship Floating Digit, with his trusty and appropriately clad crew, steamed off, or at least smoked off, to nearby St. Biggles Island, to pick up Nigel's mother from the international airport. To wave them farewell, bon voyage, and perhaps goodbye, just in case, you never know, were the women folk of the company, Secretary Lily Dobson and Paige Payne, customer support goddess. Actually, people called her a goddess because she was at any moment likely to rain down fire and brimstone on anyone who even slightly annoyed her, which was pretty well everyone really, and especially their customers. But today, Paige looked resplendent in the morning sunshine. Partly, it had to be admitted, this was due to Joe, her pet python, which hung coolly from her shoulders. Then, as Paige and Lily wandered back to the Manta Ray Bay Resort, it slowly dawned on them that the boss had gone away and would probably not be back for some hours. Actually, if at all. At least long enough for them to do a little shopping. Though this was, of course, Banania, so any shopping would be little, however big your imagination. Unfortunately, in her hurry to make the most of their freedom, Paige put Joe the Python in his cage without making sure it was securely locked. Something that Joe was very keen to take advantage of. After spending 6 hours in economy class, eating reheated rubber chicken and watching 2 remarkably predictable in-flight films, Rachel Nickleby, mother of Nigel, was dressed in a warm, woolly cardigan and a sensible hat. As she carefully descended the aircraft steps, she was almost knocked over by the heat radiating from the tarmac. There was only one door in the small airport building which served both arrivals and departures, so Nigel and his blue-striped crew were able to watch in horror as his mother carefully inspected the customs inspector. Now, of course, nobody in their right mind would ever consider scrutinising someone who could make your life, and especially your luggage, extremely inconvenient. But Rachel Nickleby considered it her duty to ensure that standards were kept up, even on this far-flung dot on the empirical map. To Nigel's utter astonishment, the large, overbearing and seriously severe customs officer stood smartly to attention. He didn't even bother to check her luggage and looked straight ahead, wishing her a very good day and equally good stay, ma'am. As he said ma'am, he actually saluted the small, stern lady, then breathed an audible sigh of relief as she picked up her luggage and strode off towards the exit. Well, after much tutting, cheek-kissing and disapprovingly looking up and down at his assembled crew, Nigel's mum allowed herself to be escorted the short distance to the St. Biggles Marina. Nigel's tentative suggestion that she perhaps take off her woolly cardigan was met with horror. "Nigel, what on earth would people think about a gadabout so flimsily dressed?" Nobody thought it wise to give her the obvious answer of, "They wouldn't think." As it happened, the voyage was remarkably uneventful. The Caribbean Ocean was on its best behaviour. Not even Kicking Katy, the subterranean volcano, felt obliged to churn the water, as was its habit. Meanwhile, things were not going quite so smoothly back at the Technode, the Manta Ray Bay Resort. Everything was neat and tidy, or at least it would have been if everyone were not turning over every piece of furniture in a desperate attempt to find Joe, the escaped python. You see, on arriving back home with new shoes and a straw hat, Paige Payne and Lily Dobson were horrified to find Joe's cage empty. "Not even a goodbye now. Typical man," snapped Paige. And what made things more difficult was that nobody really wanted to be the one to actually find Joe. Though he was comparatively young, Joe was still more than a metre long, and, well, he was a snake. Back to the floating digit, which rounded the headland and finally entered St. Hilda's Marina. Nigel and his crew were stunned to see the Prime Minister, Reverend Obadiah Dobson, Chief Superintendent Witherspoon, and a host of other dignitaries, all dressed up in their Sunday best, backed up by all the island's school children, frantically waving flags, and a drum band. Nigel's mum, of course, felt that this was just an appropriate welcome for her son's mother, by people who valued him and his achievements so highly. On the edge of the crowd, Paige Payne and Lily Dobson slipped past the gathered throng and greeted Nigel's mother with due ceremony. Then they guided her carefully through the crowd toward Manta Ray Bay Resort, chatting as politely as Paige knew how. As Nigel greeted the dignitaries, the Prime Minister asked in hushed tones, "Have you by any chance seen Her Majesty's HMS Diamond, the British naval destroyer, flagship of the NATO fleet? Only we were told that she was approaching the island, and we were all here to welcome her. You are, of course, very welcome to stay and meet her captain if it's at all convenient."